greetings and salutations. In today's video, I will be kind of doing a recap of the road trip we had in June. So this video is quite a few months late. These sketches that you see here were done on the road trip at the places or more or less after we were by those places. The first thing I drew was the word road trip and also the date so that I knew when the road trip started. And speaking of start, the road trip began with just a few photos of the journey to one of our first destinations, which were technically a road stop because they were fixing the road, but that is also where the first drawing was drawn. But before we even stopped at the road stop, it was more or less a 2 hour or so ride to that first stop. Here you can see I was trying to draw the word road trip, but it's quite bumpy, so I had to do some exceptions of not really showing most of what I drew. Because otherwise, it's just gonna be a bumpy mess, and that's not gonna look very nice. At least I now know for next time, I ain't gonna draw and record while we are driving. As you can see, I'm here trying to put in the date, and the date is just there for me as a reminder of when we went on the last road trip. And as you can see, it's the 17th June 2024, so it's this year, but it's more or less 3 months in the past. So this is 3 months late. There is a picture of the finished drawing and one of the snacks that we had on the road trip. One of the roads that went to our actual first destination did go through a quite big town. It's not as well, technically it is a city, but some people might see it as a smaller type of city. Most of the road trip consisted of looking at scenery like the houses and plants going by and even the cars. In this road trip, the clouds made gorgeous formations that seemed very interesting and you could make pictures of them and everything. And after we looked at the scenery and everything, we came at a stop because there was roadworks ahead, which is where I drew the next drawing, which it seems very rough, but it's one of the houses that was near the roadworks stop. After the roadworks led us through, we drove through a more mountainous area, which meant it looked, if you have a fear of heights, it looked very freaky sometimes, but the view was very beautiful. As you can see, the part of this land is quite green. There's not many forests or anything like that, but there are quite a lot of vegetation. After we got to the end of the valley, we stopped at a little restaurant. At this restaurant is where I also drew the next drawing in the sketchbook, alongside a delicious dinner and a cappuccino. Here you can see what I was busy drawing, which that is a seed holder which the restaurant put up for people to buy if they want to plant certain seeds like potato seeds or even flowers. This restaurant also had a little shop where I sold all kinds of things. There was a lot of sheepskin and fruits and such things, which is interesting to look through because it had variety of small little gifts and such. I mostly wanted to draw while I was on the road trip to practice a bit more perspective since that's something I need to work on, and also drawing from life, like still life and such things. This was also to teach me to draw a bit faster and to leave out the small little details and just to draw the basic shape of something. But do it in such a way that it still looks like the thing that I was drawing. After we ate at that little restaurant, it was back on the road for us. Which, on the road, we were met with a vast, flat, almost plain like land, which was gorgeous with ponds and rivers going through, and that is where we stopped at an apple shop, which sold pears and many kinds of fruit. Here you can see the drawing and as well the place that I was trying to draw. Then, after we bought a few things and we drove again for a bit, we stopped at a more mountainous region which we climbed out, looked a bit around, and just saw and took in everything that we could. As you can see here, one of the roads that we took more or less goes over one of the taller mountains, so that makes it quite easy to see over the whole land and see much farther than you would if you were a bit lower, which meant we could see the beauty of the expanded land. Then, to see something different than plans and road, we stopped in one of the towns and just drove around as much as we wanted. And we saw the huge church, which was traditionally built with stone. And it's still the old stones that was originally built into it. And I think the date that it was on of one of the stones that was there was about 100 years old. Of course, like most of the towns in this region, this one wasn't quite big, and the houses that was there was a wide range of very big and fancy houses to very small and quaint little cottages. One unique thing of this town is that they had the name of the town on one of the little land formations. After I saw a bit of spray paint on a wall and a humongous tree, we did stop at a little restaurant that also had one of the old, and I mean old, water mills in this whole place. It is completely made out of wood, which is strange to see because most things these days are just made out of metal or such. So it was interesting to see how the people built things back in the days. This restaurant was quite small, but it gave a little homey feeling, and the food was better than most of the mainstream restaurants. We were forced to reroute because one of the roads we wanted to take we thought was a like flat road, but we found out that it was a completely bumpy and very rocky road. Then again we stopped at one of the more mountainous regions and just took the beauty in and looked at the nature around us for a bit. This day was a quite beautiful day where the sun shined and the wind didn't bother many people. So there were a lot of people in the towns and by the ocean and stuff. But it also made it easy to take nice photos and videos, and everything seemed more green and lush than usual. After this point of the road trip, there was only one more place where we stopped and walked around for a bit by a town, which technically it's not a town, it's like five houses next to the ocean, but we still climbed out and walked around for a bit and ate a few of our snacks. Since this is the last place that we stopped, we decided that it was time to go home. The road back home was met with a gorgeous sunset and clouds that seemed like the most fluffiest, cottoniest jacket that you could ever imagine. And the sun was a beautiful, bright yellowish orange color on the whole road back home. This was truly a gorgeous and happy ending to the road trip. This road trip didn't end with a bang, but it ended with a quiet descent to a restful end. Back at home, I really wanted to add a bit more detail to this page and make it look a bit more cohesive than what it was, because at this moment, some parts looked a bit rough since I had to draw quite fast so that I could finish and move on to the next place. I first made a black circle around the tree where we rerouted and took a new road and a new adventure. Then I decided to add a line through one of the drawings where we were at the first restaurant. These circles and lines and things don't have much of a purpose. They are just there to give a bit more detail and to make things look a bit more finished than what they were looking like. Going to the next page, you can probably see the red string, which is of another thing coming up in probably other 3 months, which is a whole 2-page drawing and gluing of stuff and everything. But on this page, I really want to add all the snack papers that we used on the road trip as a nice little reminder. The first snack, and probably my favorite, is the rainbow cookie, which is like a sweet, almost like a chocolate chip, but it has Smarties in it. After I sticked everything in with hot glue, I just doodled around everything just a bit to add a bit more detail and just to make it a bit more cute. And with the folding of this paper so that it can at least fit into the size of the paper, this drawing and sticking in of things is done. I hope you like how the pages came out. I quite like how they came out. I'm not used to sticking this much on one paper, but at least now I have a nice reminder in my book of the snacks we ate and the places we visited. Thank you to those who have watched till the end, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and while you're down there, please consider subscribing. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope you enjoyed this video, even if it's more than 3 months late. You all must enjoy your day and remember to rest, take care of yourself, and drink water.